My brother shouted at my birthday dinner, "Don't throw a single cent at that failure." I shot back, "Then stop relying on my cash to cover the house," after I'd cut off every service I'd been footing. "My name's Ethan. I'm 31, and if you ask my family, they'd probably call me the reserved one. Or worse, the guy who never quite figured things out. I've always kept things low-key, never craved much. I wasn't the golden child." That title went to my older brother, Daniel, who followed Dad into the world of investments, or my younger sister, Chloe, who thrives as a full-time influencer with a flawless digital life. Me? I took a quieter route, carving out a steady tech job, mostly remote, earning decent money without flaunting it. I liked flying under the radar. But what I didn't realize until recently was that they didn't just ignore me, they saw me as a punchline. It started, as it often did, with a text from Mom in our family chat, "Dinner for Ethan's birthday this Friday. Thoughts?" I didn't mind that part. For a moment, I even felt a flicker of optimism. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe they'd remember I'm vegetarian or recall the new cafe I'd mentioned downtown. Then the responses rolled in. Daniel typed, "No need for anything fancy. Save the upscale spots for real milestones." Chloe added, "Ha ha ha, true. Buffet it is." Mom just dropped a thumbs up on both. No one asked what I wanted. No one checked if I was free. Like always, they chose the venue, and I went along. Friday arrived. I pulled up to a dreary buffet, flickering lights, tacky floors, and a sneeze guard that looked ancient. They were already there, plates half empty. No decorations, no dessert, just a sign. "Yo, birthday guy," Uncle Greg mumbled, gnawing on soggy fries. I grinned, nodded, and sat, trying to shrug it off. I was used to being sidelined. Then came the card. A blank envelope, no name on it. Inside, a generic birthday greeting in cursive, scrawled beneath in black ink. "Maybe next year you'll do something worth celebrating." I stared at it. I thought it might be a jest, but Daniel smirked. Chloe sipped her soda and said, "Just a nudge." Mom grinned like it was witty. It wasn't a joke. That's how they really saw me, someone who didn't measure up. I stayed silent, gave a faint smile, and snapped a photo of the card on the table, the grimy buffet plates and my family's mid-laugh faces in the background. Then I stood, set the card down, and said, "Thanks for the meal." No bitterness, no edge, just calm. I walked out before anyone could respond. The quiet that followed was the sharpest moment of the night. No one chased after me, no texts came through. I sat in my car, staring at the photo on my phone, unmoving. I kept studying it for a long time. Something in me changed that night. I wasn't angry, not exactly. I was done. Done staying silent, done being the scapegoat when things got tense. For 3 years, I'd been building something they knew nothing about. Freelance gigs, signed contracts, a side project quietly gaining traction. I hadn't shared it because I didn't need their validation. But now I saw I didn't want their presence either. 3 days later, the family chat exploded. Chloe texted first. Anyone else kicked off Disney Plus?" Daniel followed, asking about Hulu and Apple Music. "What's going on?" Mom chimed in. "I can't access the shared photo drive." Finally, Dad, who rarely texted, wrote, "Wi-Fi's down. Ethan, can you look into the account?" I didn't reply. Not yet. I wanted them to stew. They didn't know that since 2020, I'd been covering all the streaming services, cloud storage, and utilities. When Dad lost his job, I stepped in to keep things afloat, never making a fuss. I didn't seek credit, but I kept receipts. Now I was tired of being invisible until something broke. What really shook them wasn't the missing Hulu or the unpaid power bill. It was the message I sent that night. One text, one image, the photo from the buffet. No caption, just the picture. That said enough. Daniel fired back first. "Really, Ethan, grow a spine." Mom wrote, "Are you this mad over a card?" Chloe added, "It was just a prank. Chill." I said nothing. I logged out, blocked the chat, muted their numbers, and went about my day. But the quiet didn't last because they hadn't yet grasped what I'd really done. By Wednesday morning, my phone was flooded, over 30 missed calls. It vibrated like it was furious. I ignored them but checked a few voicemails. Each one sounded more desperate. "Ethan, honey, call me. Your dad can't get into the bank account." "Hey, no fight here, but the tax files are gone. Where are they?" "Ethan, this is urgent. The mortgage payment bounced. Dad says your name's on it. What's happening?" That last one made me pause. That's when it hit them, what they'd been leaning on for 3 years. When Dad got laid off, Chloe had to drop out of college temporarily, and Daniel tanked a chunk of cash on a risky startup bet. I stepped up. Around then, I scored a major freelance deal with a company that later skyrocketed. I didn't boast. I didn't ask for thanks. I just helped. I funneled all their bills through my accounts. I even took over the mortgage to save their house. I never expected repayment. That wasn't the goal. Daniel's expression shifted from baffled to irritated. "So you're cutting us off over a card?" I looked him in the eye and said, "No." I'm making you see how you've used me for 3 years. That card? It was just proof." He stared, maybe thinking of a comeback, then left a case of soda by the door and walked off. I didn't touch it. That night, I sat in my living room, finally at peace. Not because I'd gotten revenge, not because they were scrambling, but because I'd chosen myself. I owed them nothing now. No excuses, no funds, no silent compliance. But this was just the start. The next morning, I found a new voicemail from Dad. He rarely called me directly. He was more of a group text, stern glance type. His voice was steady but laced with restrained fury. "Ethan, your mom's distraught. Your sister's in tears. You've made your statement. Now step up and fix it. You don't abandon family because it's tough." I played it twice. That line, "Step up and fix it," rang in my head like a siren. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't a discussion. It was a command. The kind I'd grown up hearing, dressed as care, but really just control. That's how Dad worked. He didn't yell, he didn't swing, but he always ensured you knew who held the reins, even when he wasn't paying a dime. What was almost laughable, if it weren't so grim, was that he still thought I owed him. After I'd covered the mortgage for 3 years, paid Mom's medical bills when her coverage lapsed, and bailed Chloe out of her credit card debt, I had records of it all. I'd been the glue, and they only noticed when I stepped away. Later that day, Mom messaged me on Instagram. She only used it for reposting recipes or church events, so I knew it was serious. The note was brief and formal, like she was trying to keep the upper hand. "We're struggling. I don't know what you're doing, but you can still make this right. Your dad says we could refinance the house if your name's on the documents. Another missed payment and we could lose it. Think about your family. That house, the one I grew up in, the one they upgraded with loans they couldn't afford while I lived in a cramped studio after college. The one I kept afloat when Dad's pride wouldn't admit they were sinking. It never felt like home, even when I was paying for it. Now they expected me to save it again. I didn't respond. Instead, I started gathering documents, not to bail them out, but to shield myself. See, I'd never formally transferred control of the utilities, the subscriptions, or even the loan I'd co-signed when Chloe tried and failed to launch a boutique. It was all still tied to me. If they defaulted, it'd hit me. That was the terrifying part. Not their manipulation or demands, but how seamlessly they'd woven their lives into mine without my consent. So I got to work. I canceled the co-signer agreement. I called the electric company and removed my name. I locked my credit report and secured every account that wasn't solely mine. I wasn't just walking away. I was sealing the exit. It took 2 days. When I finished, I got one last message, and it struck deep. It was from Nana. She was the only one who ever treated me like I was enough, just as I was. She'd slip me cookies when I was sent to my room for talking back. She never forgot my birthday, even if it was just a hand-drawn note with "You're my favorite" scribbled on it. But this message was heavier. "I heard what happened. I don't blame you, Ethan, but I miss you. Don't let their mistakes harden you. You're a good soul. Hold on to that." I sat with that for a while. The next day, I drove to her house. I brought her favorite blueberry scones and a bouquet of daisies. We sat on her porch in silence for a bit before she spoke. "They don't deserve you," she said, stirring her coffee. "But they'll come crawling back. Pride breaks when desperation kicks in." She was right, because the next day, after I cut off the backup credit line they'd been quietly draining, there was another knock at my door. Not Daniel this time. It was Chloe. She looked off. None of her usual polish. No lipstick, red eyes, sweatshirt and jeans, clutching a plastic bag like a peace offering. "I brought food," she said, voice raw. "Can we talk? Please?" I didn't budge at first. My hand rested on the doorframe. I studied her like she was a stranger because in many ways she was. But something in her expression, genuine or well-rehearsed, made me step back. She walked in, placed the bag on the counter, and glanced around like she was surprised I'd let her enter. "Ethan, we screwed up. Badly," she said. I stayed silent, watching. She looked away. I'm not pretending we didn't say cruel things. I gave a dry chuckle, thinking of the card. "I said stuff I regret. I've been self-centered. I didn't realize how much you were caring for us." She looked up, eyes glistening. "I didn't want to see it. It was easier to think you were just the quiet one with no big plans." The room went quiet. She was right. It was all unraveling. I could sense it coming, the moment she'd asked me to patch it all up. But I wasn't the guy who sat mutely at that buffet a week ago. I stared at Chloe for a long moment before speaking. She fidgeted under the silence, picking at her sleeve like she was waiting for a blow. "I'm not here to grovel," she said quickly, like she wanted to head off the assumption. "I just hoped if you heard our side, you might reconsider yours," I said. You think I don't deserve respect unless I succeed on your terms, that I'm only useful when the cable's out or a payment's due." She winced. "I know it was wrong, but we thought you were fine with it. You never pushed back. You just helped, like it didn't faze you." I sat down. My voice was even, but years of buried frustration bubbled up. "Want to know something odd?" I asked. "I used to think it didn't matter either. I figured staying quiet and doing my part was simpler. Let Daniel rack up promotions, let you glow online, let mom and dad act like I had no ambition. I didn't need the spotlight." But then it clicked. The problem wasn't that I didn't matter. It was that you all agreed I didn't, and that felt normal to you. She sank into a chair, her posture small like she wanted to disappear. "I guess we thought you preferred the shadows," she said quietly. "That you were just different." "No," I said. "I was placed there. Every time I achieved something, it was dismissed or called a fluke. Every small victory got overshadowed by Daniel's next deal or your viral posts. I was the foundation, and while you built your lives on me, none of you looked down to see who was holding it up." I stood and walked to the counter. I lifted the bag she'd brought. It was takeout from my favorite Mexican spot, one I'd mentioned in passing over a year ago. This was the first time anyone in the family had remembered a detail about me. "I appreciate this," I said, setting it down. "But food doesn't erase years of being unseen." "I know," she said fast. "It can't undo everything. It's just a start." I exhaled, rubbing my temples. "Remember when I helped you launch your boutique?" I asked. She nodded. "Yeah. Do you know how many payments I deferred to cover that $27,000? She swallowed. "I didn't know that." "Of course not," I said. "No one asked." She looked at me with something like remorse, and perhaps for the first time, true awareness. "You want me to return?" I said, almost addressing the whole family. "Go back to being the safety net you relied upon, even as you mocked me. You treated me like I had no burdens, no goals, my own life. You want the old me, the one who always said yes, even when you ridiculed me?" She replied quickly. "I swear I don't. I want the real you, the one finally speaking up." For a second, I wanted to trust her, but that wasn't enough anymore. "I'm not coming back," I said softly. Her eyes widened. "Ethan, I'm done holding you up." She opened her mouth, but I continued. "I've closed every joint account. I've untangled myself from your finances. You'll need to manage your own bills and rebuild your credit. I'm not doing it anymore." She looked like she wanted to protest, but didn't. "I didn't mean—" She started, then stopped. I nodded. "I don't hate you," I added. "This isn't about spite. It's about refusing to let you use me. I deserve more than obligation or pity. I deserve to be valued," she whispered. "I do value you." Then she stepped back. "Will you ever come back?" she asked. I shook my head. "Only if I'm welcomed as someone you genuinely want, not just someone you need." She nodded slowly, tears brimming. She picked up the food bag and held it out. "Keep it," she said. "Even if you never want to see us again, please take it." I took it. That was the one thing I accepted. When she left, I locked the door, and for the first time in years, a long time, it felt like a burden had lifted. The quiet in my apartment wasn't lonely anymore. It was peaceful now. It felt like freedom now. The next few days were tranquil. No group texts, no frantic calls, no pressure yanking me everywhere but my own path. I used that time to forge something new, my own life. I signed a lucrative remote deal with a Dutch tech firm, paid off my lingering debts, and booked a solo trip to Lisbon, something I'd dreamed of since college. It took them a while for them to see I wasn't bluffing. Daniel sent one last message. "You've made your point, but don't forget who didn't got you here." I didn't respond. I saved it as a screenshot in a folder I now called Clutterances. Mom mailed a birthday card the next year. No jabs this time, just a brief note. "I'm sorry. I miss you. Love, Mom." I didn't write back, not out of spite, but because I'd learned something crucial. You could release the hurt without letting people back in to wound you again. 6 months later, Nana sent a letter. Inside was a small photo of us on her porch. She held daisies and a scone. On the back, her handwriting wobbled. "They're learning, slowly, but you don't need to sacrifice your peace for them. They're learning slowly. Keep going. I'm proud." That one I framed. Now I live in a sunny apartment in Denver. I work with a thoughtful, supportive team. I've strolled to a nearby creek every morning with my thoughts. I've picked up sketching again. I don't broadcast my wins. I don't post subtle boasts or drop hints in chats because I don't need their gaze to feel real anymore. I don't need anyone's anymore. So what are your thoughts on this story? Do you agree with what happened, or do you see it differently? Let us know your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. See you in the next one.